Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Happy Black Mama Creative Week.
There it is.
Let me add Nikisha. And we have some friends joining us today. My
Hey, y'all.
lighting looks a little bit like I'm in the witness protection program.
Well, I'm in this
Little
red
bit. A
lighting.
little bit. I need to get my ring light.
I'm not home. I'm not home. We just, got back from the beach. So my sister was gracious enough to let me use her house for this first live.
You look sun-kissed, though.
Hey,
You
boo.
do.
Which is
And
it, April?
he, of course, will be chiming in from the background.
Yes.
That's whenever I'm
Yes.
at her house.
Hey.
Making your way slowly to the stage. Everyone.
Welcome, everybody. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Sheena. Thank you for watching. Oh, you all are watching on YouTube. Welcome to the Black Mama Magic Room. It's so nice up in here. I don't have incense lit this time. Nikisha, you got incense lit? You usually have incense.
I will light the incense, people. I will. I don't understand.
You. And we're gonna get started soon because we have.
You didn't flip the last 2 times we done met up.
I got the incense, but these little people took my lighter away.
Why
I
do
got
the
a big
little
fire up in
Why
here.
do little people have the lighter?
Oh, that's you know.
Edit that.
Okay, maybe I did it. Maybe I took it to another room.
Yeah.
Well, we're live, so
Wasn't
you know
the
I won't be
kids.
doing any editing of this. So
It is what it is.
if the people's call you, the people's call
You make a good point. It was me. I took it to another room. But
one
now
of our
it's
guests is who introduced us to this incense, and we are forever grateful.
Oh,
That is Akila. It changed everybody's lives.
Let's go ahead and get started. Can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hear
Okay,
you.
great. So let's go ahead and get started with our first one.
Yay!
So let's we're gonna pull some cards. Well, we're gonna pull a card to get started.
Thank goodness. I was about to go run and grab my card.
No.
Okay.
And then
Which one will rise to the top today, y'all? Which one?
And then we'll just tell you a little bit about Black Mama Creative Week, and we'll jump into this live reading of Thea's book, Blood and Bajaraque.
I could use this energy today.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. April, you want to pick a card from the deck for us? You want to pick a card?
About to do a quick shift.
Be free, honey.
Okay, let's see.
I don't really like being put up anymore.
I need the card, April. I have to.
Feels good, don't it?
It feels so good.
I have to read it to the people.
Everyone got the card.
Do you want to come get on camera? No. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. So, and I respect the birth order. So,
right. Or you could end up on this camera.
So the card for today is it's all about you. It's all about you. This is card number 18. So 1 + 8 equals
9.
9.
Forget it out of it.
Okay. Dear Mama, we know you're busy making sure everyone else's needs are met, but take some time to center yourself today. What do you need in this moment? What is your soul craving? Your body, your heart? Do something that makes you smile, then do it again. Then make a list of the ways you can pamper your soul, body, and heart. Commit to doing something on that list daily. Save your best stuff for yourself. Center yourself. You are worthy of your time and adoration. It's all about you. So that's our card for today. Jamie says yes. So welcome to Black Mama Creative Week. This is our third Black Mama Creative Week.
I think so.
Started
2019.
Yeah. This is our third Black Mama Creative Week. And for those of you who don't know, Black Mama Creative Week is a series of digital events that highlights Black Mama creatives and celebrates the ingenuity of Black motherhood. And Black Mama Creative Week is the last 8 days of June. So we'll have a series of digital events celebrating the creativity and ingenuity of Black motherhood, and also some workshops for Black Mama creatives to inspire you to remember that motherhood is a creative journey that adds and expands to your life, and some tangible tools to help you visualize, maximize, and make your creative dreams become reality. And so we are kicking off with a live reading from Thea's book, Blood and Bajaraque. And our theme for this year is Black Imagination. And so this live is entitled Motherhood, Imagination, and Lineage. So we're really, really excited. Are you ready for our first guest? Do you want
I am. I'm so ready.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right.
Are they coming at the same time?
Well, we can have them come at the same time.
I would like for
Let's do it.
everybody to be in the room.
Okay, let's get
do
everybody in the Black Mama Magic Room. It is
Can
nice
they
up
hear?
in
I don't
here.
think they can hear.
Let's see.
Up
They are
there.
here. Here we go. There's one of our guests.
She got her going.
Host
I feel like
Ready.
you just walked into my backyard, Akila. I feel like you just walked into the yard. That's how excited I am.
and Akila is host of Fair of the Free Child podcast. And our next guest is
An author of Raising Free Black Children.
Yes.
author of Raising Free People.
Not Free Black Children, Raising Free People.
Raising Free People. And our next guest is Nikki Black.
It's supporting.
Welcome.
I'm tearing up. This is so great. It's too much.
Y'all know what? Akila and I have never been in the same room together. Although I've been standing forever, never even virtual room or otherwise. I'm always like showing up after she left, or I couldn't be there the day that she was there. And I've been standing like we've been homeschooling a long time, and I've been standing for real. Like I think I mentioned your name to them first. Like y'all haven't heard of Fair the Free Child? Yeah, like so I'm really, really, really excited to meet you.
So good to be in the same room. I know I was saying that like, how hasn't this happened? But here we are.
Today is when it was supposed to happen.
Yeah,
this is it.
I'm with it.
Oh my God, it's so fun. I feel like we're in the garden.
So welcome to the Black Mama Magic Room. Yes. It's really nice up in here.
Is it nice up in here? It's nice.
So
we got
nice up in here.
We fancy.
Yes,
we got the background.
Very fancy. I love it. Thank you.
Nikki and Akila have joined us. We wanted to have some Black Mama creatives join us to read their favorite piece from the book. And so we're just going to jump in.
This is the first time I've been in a space like this. I'm so excited. Y'all don't even know. All I ever wanted to do is read it.
I have to interject one thing because this does not happen to me often.
Okay.
Can we just for a moment honor all these beautiful gaps in the room?
Listen.
I mean,
Nikisha.
Yes.
Nikisha,
what?
You pause, goddamn it.
Yes.
What?
Gap power.
Yes. Power. And I know we all have stories. Oh my God.
We all have stories. That is so beautiful.
Yeah. That's a beautiful piece, Nikki.
That's a beautiful
in the room with you too.
Nikisha, I'm so glad you called that a thing.
Honey, do you see it? Do you see
just gorgeous?
Everybody, like Crystal, we need to get you a gap, honey, because this is where
we have to get you like a little false.
Like how you can get grills, you should be able to get gaps.
You should be able to.
I mean,
Jamie Nicole says hi, Akila.
Jamie.
I'm good. I have moles, so I'm good.
We'll have a club for that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I have moles.
I got one right here.
But
I got one on my toe too.
Both of my youngest children have gaps, so they're
part of that.
Yeah,
gaps. Okay,
that's a thing. Oh, I love that.
It's a beautiful thing.
That felt good. That just washed over me.
Y'all we're the only one. It's beautiful to be and y'all are not blood relatives. Like we know all our relatives got the same, we come by it honest, but in a room with other folk, it's like, what? Yeah, sorry. Okay, so
great thing to center.
Someday I'll tell the story of how Nikisha, I was in the room when Nikisha learned to be proud of her gap. Someday I'll tell that story, but we don't have time today. We don't have time today.
We are your only children.
What? We're your only youngest children.
Okay, say hi to the people.
Hi.
Hey, baby.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna start with Akilah, and we just want you to read your favorite piece from the book. Tell us why it's your favorite piece.
This is me the whole time.
What you thought of the book, what you thought of your altar box, like all of the things.
Which is over here.
Yes.
Oh. Yes. So yes, this room is lovely. I'm so happy to be here because Nikisha and Nikki, I haven't been in the same space with. I'm a proud patron, of everybody in the space, and I love it, and y'all should be too. So Blood and Bajaraque. Come on. You see, I have hairpins in here, not anything else. I use the one that comes with it, but I also put the hairpins in here specifically because they're also in my hair, and I'm particular about, all my shit.
Pause for the cause.
We need to pause there.
Hairpins as a bookmark is the blackest.
It's the most beautiful black thing.
It really is.
How did I not think
so well? You use the flat ones for different things than the rounded ones. Like word.
How did I not know? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I just had an idea
already. Won't stop.
Yeah,
black girl skills. So I love the book because the poetry as story, as lineage work, as mother work, as father work, as reparenting, as deepening, as expanding. It was just so many opportunities to not be spoon-fed a concept, but to be brought into somebody's life experience, which is also the blackest thing ever, because that's what we do. We live our shit, and then we process and we feel and we think and we say. And this is so much of that in so many ways. And I had a tough time deciding which thing to read. And I was like, how long is it? Wait, I got to go at 3:40. So I will settle in this moment. I don't usually like to settle, but I will settle in this moment on Denim, which is 28. And I'll say why first. So I just recently came out of like a super major funk in my mothering. My daughters are 17 and 15, and we've,
Akilah, I'm here. I'm 100% here.
And Chris and I are committed to raising free people and being free people. So this is not about why them niggas keep doing blah, 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 blah. It's more so like what is happening, what is the education, so there's mother work happening in that way. And then also a lot of deepening in the work with my own mother at the same time. I'm hearing an echo. So this for me, Denim brings me back to myself when I was my daughter's age and my mother was who she was back then, and how there were so many things that she could not offer, but then there were so many things that she could. And one of them was very much her style. And we wore the same size back then. And I think about the denim skirt that I wore, and then I cut the thing in the back, and I thought she was going to be mad. She was like, "Guan Kila," like she liked it, So this brought me and my mom back in that space, which was also medicine for what Marley and Sage and I are with now. So thank you, Thea, for 28 denim. Yes, and 2 and 8 is 10, and that's very much the space that makes sense for right now. Denim. When I think of denim, I think of my mother. She introduced me to ripped jeans and acid wash bongo jackets, fresh. Before I knew what it meant to be any gender, I knew what it meant to be fly, to be free to choose the same pair of ripped denim jeans Saturday after Saturday, without a worry in the world, an escape from private school uniform and religion. Just a Cali kid raised miles away from the seashore, no sexuality known to claim, no sexuality yet to shame. Denim wasn't made to be armor. It was made to be remixed with neon puff paint or accented with heels too fly to feel good. Not a weapon, not to be weapon, not to be evidence of inherited trauma, not to be questioned or shamed, accused or blamed. Hell nah. Denim is for Sunday fun days, fully loaded with sunglasses and tank tops, ready to be transformed into club wear with a blazer and a red lip. Girls trip, coastline, windows down, reggae up, free, fly, no invitation for violence, no instrument of silence, no loophole or rationale. Denim is fucking denim. My kind, the kind my mom wore, the kind I rock with acid wash jackets, the kind my daughters leave the house wearing every single day. Fresh, fly, free. I do ritual to keep us this way. Monica's girls, black souls, worn denim, fresh, fly, and yes, free. What?
Ooh. Tequila. I've never heard anybody read it.
I needed it.
And our daughters are the same ages because Talani's 16, so we always are always in the same
in the same pot, cycle. Some kind of way.
The same season in the same cycle, and like exactly that. Like, and I'm so grateful that you channeled that and you received that, because that's exactly what it, like, the things that we can go back to even when this world tries to tell us who we are, who our mothers were, give us new language for what was happening in our families, still through a white colonial lens, right? They're telling us what was happening in our families and giving us language around it. And the fabric, though, is in the mundane, like denim that you would take for granted.
Yes.
That
Saturday after Saturday.
That you would take for granted, stuff that colonized language has no words for. But that is inheritance, when I look at how my girls dress and I dress and my mom dress, why that is such a theme for us.
Yes. I love that you use the word inheritance with it too, because it's exactly that. Even when I think about the 70s, I always say that's when I was supposed to be a teenager, in part because of how they dress. And then the same things that were fashionable then is now. And then my daughter is now with the 90s thing, and they look at my pictures and like, oh, why you save that? It's like, then that opens up conversation that, again, is not so much about words, it's connection. It's pre all of that shit. It's just in us, and we carry it. And
I think the way we pass on inheritance just looks different, right? And so I think sometimes we use language that comes from a colonial lens. We use the language of intergenerational trauma. We use the language of passing on generational wealth, as though we don't have lexicon or material or things like that are doing just that. We just use materials differently. We just use the words differently, and we clearly aren't lacking in these things until we look at it through a colonial lens, right?
But why are y'all talking about what I want to talk about with my poem?
Okay. Step back. What's that back? Segue.
But I think the part that you mentioned about connection, like this poem isn't about like talking to your daughters, but it's about connecting with them. In our next episode, because our guest on the episode has an older daughter too, and we have a conversation about how the relationship is moving from care to reciprocity. When your children are small, the relationship is rooted in care, and then as they grow older, the relationship expands into a reciprocal relationship, and then you're allowed to ask for things that you need in the relationship too, so that it can become an equitable relationship. And I think that it's a place where we're challenged because that's not the way we're trained to parent. We're trained to parent to care forever. Like we're supposed to be in care mode for our children forever. And
absolutely. Yeah. And we're protective of a particular mode because it's not just with our children. It's in all of our relationships. The idea that how we hold the space is rooted in the need of the other person, as opposed to an evolution of education that is about equity, not about who's holding the power in any one moment. That is particularly difficult when you are groomed to hold the things. Like that's your responsibility. And that's what a lot of what I'm dealing with Marley and Sage now, where they're like, yes, the love, we get it. We understand. We've all, yes, you'll ride. Awesome. However, listen to me about what care means now. And so I'm, you know, like, and then I have to do the same thing to say, yeah, bet, got it. However, here are what my needs are. And here are some of the things that I actually am not willing to change. So then how do we relate with these things being true? Because they are. They are.
Yeah. And that we're at a space now where you can care for me too.
Oh yeah.
And that's an expectation.
You must.
Of this relationship and this dynamic, right? And so it's no longer like one person is, you know, the adult or this. It's more like, no, there can be mutual care. Like one person's voice isn't less than another because we've worked to build that equity.
Yep.
But also I have trouble tapping into that equity, like receiving it back. Like, okay, but that doesn't work for me. That doesn't feel like care to me.
Right.
And so those are new conversations I've never had. And they're weird. They're awkward.
Yeah, and let them be just that.
Because I'm not comfortable yet. I haven't gotten comfortable yet with that level of reciprocity. Yeah. But you know, we're gonna struggle our way through it. We're gonna work our way through it.
And I can't wait to listen to your next episode, Akila, or the episode that's out now about unschooling in adulthood.
Oh yes, yeah. That's Anthony. And the whole
Yeah.
team, because the last 3 episodes are going to be the last 3 of the season, and my partner Chris and I are going to be on talking about the ways that we deschool our marriage. You know, like how those things are all connected. We're doing 3, yes.
The two of you are doing 3 on that.
Yep.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh yeah, I can't wait. I
love that. And this is the reason I was so glad that you agreed to be on, is because again, like sometimes when we think about imagination, we leave it in the art space. And so I'm excited, but we have to go beyond
in the relationship space.
We have to relationship space, movement space, parenting space.
Everything is everything. Everything is everything. Yep.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for reading that, Akila. I love it. I just don't even know what people are going to pick to read. So it's always like, Christmas.
So thank you. I know you have a hard out at 3:40. So thank you so much for taking the time to come into the Black Mama Magic
for joining us.
See you soon. I can't wait to see you.
I'm going to take my whole time and stay till 3:40. Thank y'all.
Good. You are welcome.
I can't wait to see you in person soon.
Okay, so our next Black Mama creative that we have reading is Nikki Black. And if you have seen any of the Shaping the Shift social media pages, or if you follow the Black Mamas on Instagram, Nikki Black.
That is all little creative Cali
is the creative force around our social media images, and how our social media has has transformed, updated into the 21st century.
Into the future.
Into the future. She brought us forward. She brought us forward. So we're excited to have you here. Thank you so much. Man, I'm trying to think, like, how long have I known you?
So, you know, when I know this can be a controversial statement, because at the time that I met Nikki Black, I was around a lot. I was around a lot of writers. A lot of people had books. But when I say the first time I held this shit is legit as fuck self-published book, it had to be Nikki Black. Now, I'm not saying folks didn't have books, and I'm not putting, it is what it is. But the first time I saw that there's some earth sign in this heifer's chart somewhere was when I held black.
Well, it's my moon. It's Virgo.
It's the moon.
But also, can we talk about the titles? Her books have the best titles.
The best titles.
One of her best books is one of my favorite sayings. All my exes want me back.
Because they do. It's true.
It's true. It's the truth.
We didn't make that up.
We didn't make that up. It's just the law. It's just the law.
They're in the DMs currently.
And the other one is, I think, is it 5'3" and rising? I know your height is in there. It's like 5'3" and
That's
rising.
the one where she's like this. And
where she's like this, and it's like, I mean, she has the best titles. Her books have the best
covers are gorgeous, and I was
the covers are great.
What is happening here? Beautiful work.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So it's one of the most enlightening conversations I've ever experienced was a conversation between you, Thea, and Crystal, where you were talking about your metrics for understanding whether or not something is for you, whether or not you're enjoying it, you should be doing it. And I know, Crystal, for you, that joy is, or creativity is your metric. And Thea, yours is joy. And so it's, since that time, I've been curious. And I think, Thea, you and we talked about it on IG once, what my metric might be. And we landed on beauty being mine. That for me, beauty is the metric. If it's not beautiful, then I don't want it. So that spills into everything I do. So as a young poet in the LA poetry scene, releasing my work, it had to be beautiful. It had to be presentable in a way that was appealing and pleasing to me for me to say, like, I want you to have this. And stapled together pages was not gonna do, honey. I mean,
baby, no shade, but bitch, let me tell you, that's not what came through. And that's why, like, people be like, I had books out too. I'll be like, but yes.
Is it
you too.
Is it shade if it's true? If it's shade?
All I want to say is that clearly the fact that it stands out as a spike in the time. Yes, we're there. Okay, for all the crazy, and this is controversial, but it is what it is. We know when Kanye's production came through, it was a spike on the timeline.
Right.
Were there other producers around that time? I'm sure there were. I'm sure there were.
Right.
Was it a spike on the timeline? Getting a Nikki Black book at that time was like, oh, I'm not going to put my book out yet. I'm going to wait.
Right.
I'm going to get my shit together. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to learn a couple things because it made a standard. It really, and it said that we're independent and, you know, and we're amazing. Like we can create the stuff without that.
It can still be good. It can still be dope. It can
beautiful. It can still be beautiful.
You don't have to look like your situation. Is all I'm saying.
So then I know, Nikki,
that's the word.
This is birthed from that first Nikki
so
Black
you
book.
decided.
You
said, hold my tea. And I went, okay, because I'm probably never gonna get here.
I said, Nikki Black taught me, and I raise her because I have to come hard because I took all these years to come back with a cover after seeing that.
Came with it. You came with it.
You got a bookmark. I'm never gonna have any of that.
Right?
Just saying.
A ribbon.
You outdid me. I'm retired.
The ribbon.
I'm retired.
We came hard.
And I love it. And
that's what we
gotta do. That's what we gotta do. But I talk about this often in terms of like community and even my very close friendships, that it is not about competition, but inspiration. And so like if Ebony Janice, for instance, is running really, really hard, I'm like, we running? I'm about to run hard too.
We running.
And we're going to continue to surpass each other, but it's never going to be something that we're not celebrating. We're always going to be celebrating and encouraging the other person to keep up. So like this is you shooting out way ahead in front of me.
But the comeback though. The comeback. What's the comeback though?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for sending me this beautiful book and the altar box.
I had to.
It
Yeah,
was so beautiful.
absolutely.
Such an experience opening it. You know, I sent you the video.
Yeah.
Me opening it, and yeah, and Isla was there, and she was like, "Ooh."
Oh,
So,
was she? Yes.
yeah,
Isla
so it was
Rose.
really a family experience.
Good.
And yeah, I'm just so honored that you invited me here to read
Yes.
a poem
I'm
or
very excited.
an entry, an excerpt.
I know, because I don't even
you
know that
know,
they're poems. I don't even know what they are.
they might not be poems, but I'm if it's okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
read
please.
Let's hear it.
I'm looking for it. Yeah.
It was hard to decide. But finally I settled on number one. Reason being,
yeah, it was tough. That's a good one.
I love that one.
Because two reasons. I love pie. I love pie. People have gifted me pies. That's how I know you love me. You give me a pie. I love pie. I love apple pie. You got to put ice cream on it though.
Yeah.
And additionally, you know, we come from the slam world. And so we just come out the gate with the heat.
With the first
come
one.
out the gate with the heat.
Out
That's what
the
you
gate.
gotta do.
That's what you gotta do, because folks is not waiting around to the end of the poem to
to score you.
Bring that fire or
come on, get this 10. So I felt like this was the heat. I was like, okay, then. When I
and let you know you're gonna learn right off the back who the matriarchs are.
Let's not waste any time. So, one, did you know apple pies grow from apple trees? On my grandmother's land, apple pies grow from apple trees. True story. They were more like sisters than mother and daughter, at least by the time I came along. One fair-skinned and plump, salt and pepper hair plaited back, fit snug beneath the brown, short cropped curls sewn into the wig she wore in public. I never told her I could see the gray strands rebelling near the back of her head, where her kitchen was, or expressed my preference for the shades of gray growing from her scalp, our little secret evidence of our intimacy. She plucked apples from the tree for me. I sat guessing Wheel of Fortune puzzles while she skinned them and giggled, delighted every time I got the answers right. She made me feel so smart and special, especially when she added the Domino's powdered sugar on top of my slice of pie. We called her 2Gs, short for great grand. Get it? 2Gs? She lived down house. 1G lived up house. Daughter of Lillian, less apple pie, more apple branch. Plucked from the same tree, she laughs hard, loves harder. I've never seen her hold a grudge. I mean, she will tell the story, but she don't wish nobody harm ever, even when they could use a dose. Her skin is so soft, like her mother's, toughened in certain areas. I often look at her scars. They could be misread, appear mean even. Truth is harder than assumption. The story behind them had no clear villain, not even racism. The car accident continues to fill her body with pain, but she's grateful to be alive to feel it. She teaches us to crack crab for meat, Bibles for answers, the original trash talker, undefeated champion of our world. Who knew apple pies grew on apple trees? Who knew the same branches giving us pies could be fashioned into switches, intended to teach us how to tolerate pain the world guarantees for Black girls? Here, beneath the shade of their apple tree, there is no gray between what is right or what is wrong. Here, we always trust what we feel and the tree we grew from.
Oh.
That's the one. That's the one.
That's the one.
Yesterday was 1G's birthday. So we had to all wish her a happy sweet 16 because she's been 15 and a half since I was born. And so we got to celebrate that with her yesterday. And it's funny because there's so much in the book that, you know, it's so her. Like she'll say, oh, my right side is giving me trouble, you know, from the car accident. She got in a bad car accident when she was very young and has had multiple surgeries. And only made it worse. So she just lives with the pain now. And but she'll always say, but I'm grateful, I don't complain because some people ain't around to feel it, and that just sets the tone for so much. So I'm glad you picked that one because her birthday was yesterday. Mark sang her the Stevie Wonder version, and she's also a flirt, which I don't know if I put that heavily in the book, but she has a t-shirt that says Hot Mama, and she wore a 90210 shirt forever. It was like her favorite because she had a crush on Brandon. And so in all our pictures when we went back there, she's like hanging on, leaning on Mark, making sure I see her. Like I don't feel a kind of way. And he said, "Your happy birthday." That's the sweetest birthday song in the back. Yours was sweet too, Thea, just not as sweet. I understand. It's fine.
I love it.
Yeah, that's Barbara.
Well, happy Barbara.
That was, thank you so much. Thank you. Happy 16th. Happy sweet 16th.
Yes, happy 16th to her.
Happy sweet 16th.
That reminds me of so many different things about my own grandmother. That's the one that it's really hard for me to get through without just, just whoo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Thank you, Thea.
Thank you.
I didn't know how rare it was to have your grandmother still living because I've, my whole life, she's the only grandparent that I've ever known. And I think I was talking to you, Nikisha, and I was like, oh, yeah, my grandmother. You were like, your grandmother is still alive? And I was like, yeah. I mean,
that's a gift.
Blessing.
Yeah. And I
think, a huge blessing.
Yeah, until then, I just took it for granted that everyone's grandmother was still here. And she only has one more sibling left here with her. And so,
even living through that, all that, watching your whole nuclear family go before you. The older I get, the more I realize how them I am and how much of my life I kind of not wasted, but it's that Bible verse, train up a child in the way they should go and they'll always return to it. Like how much of my 20s and some of my 30s were spent trying to kind of redefine, not away from, but incorporating all these externalized messages. And when I think about, I had two grandmothers, a great grand and a grand, that had land and were the women over this land. And I ran that land and I learned from that land. And when you think about me now, finding myself in my 40s, late 30s, gardening and with these plants and right where I was as a child, right? And that is the truest, most natural space I ever have been. And it's always been right there. And then you think about the time you spend kind of away from there when your home base has always been there. It's like we're our truest form of it as a child. And the rest of the time is spent coming back to it, right? Yeah. Finding our way back to it.
Or how much, I agree, and how much we don't, or I didn't hear or wasn't listening well. Like my grandmother would say things like, don't worry about it. It's already done. God already did it. And that used to make me so mad. I used to be like, it is not done. I have not seen the results. What are you talking about? And reading the 7 spiritual laws of success, right? And reading all the laws. And I'm like, this is all
my grandma had all these laws.
My nana said that. My nana wrote this book.
That part right. About her body feels with pain, but she's grateful to be alive to feel it. And that's gratitude. That's a gratitude practice.
And she's decided to live with the pain. Acceptance.
All of the things, like no blame, no mad, no nothing.
It's amazing. I always talk about like how we're often sold back our own shit, and it's like, that's the same thing. I'm like,
they probably feel that way all the time, looking and watching. Like,
this is all talking about. Oh, you have to allow.
I mean, I just see them watching us go through all this busy work.
Yeah.
And really, we could have just didn't. She yesterday she had a memory though, something I didn't even remember. And that's the other thing. They really know who you are because they watched you so close when you were young. And she said, I still have the that little brown animal you gave Lil. I said, what little brown? Lil is my great grandmother. And so I'm a lot like her. My sister's a lot like 1G. And so we all have these very interesting cross relationships because 1G and 2G were very, very close. They lived on the same land and everything. And, but you know, Barbara's more of a firecracker than Lil was. Lil was the more quiet one. And apparently I gave her some type of, my grandma said it was like, she says like, first she said it would look like a little dragon. Then she said, I don't know, maybe it's a dog. I said, Grandma, it can't be a dog. It got to be a dog or a dragon. It can't be whatever it is. It's some type of little animal. And as she says, the nose, his head, his face is like touches down, and it opens. And I had put a scripture inside of it for my grandmother. And I told her she has to read it every day because she was feeling sick and that it would make her feel better. And she said, you was a little girl. And when my great grandmother passed, my grandmother went and got it. And still has it right now in Maryland. So when I go back there this year, I can't wait to see what it is. I didn't even remember doing that, but they remember me doing these little rituals as a child for them that I didn't even recall. But the fact that she recalled enough that my great grandmother never left her bedside, apparently, and even up until she passed and transitioned. So it's all those things that you can't get from, because you would forget you did anything, but they'd be like, oh no, you did this and you got this and I have this. And, you know, she told me I have to go back there and get her doll babies if anything happens to her, because they're going to try to get rid of her doll. I said, I'll be on the first thing smoking, and I'm bringing back all them dolls, and I don't know where we're going to put them, but ain't nobody going to touch them dolls.
This is why I think it's so important to talk about lineage and imagination in the same thing. Because lineage is not the past, and it can really push us forward and open us up. I think, you know, between generations, we often harp on like, well, we're different and we don't do it like that. And all of these other things. But if we can really tap in and tune it, like I said, like just listen to what, you know, they were saying, like the fact that she remembered that you made that and you put a scripture inside is a way of saying like, oh, you've always been this way.
Right.
Yes.
I've always been this way. I've always been
and she's always seen you.
And she's always seen you. And it's like, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out who we are. You know what I'm saying? And they just know so much about that. And I think sometimes we feel like we have to agree with everything they did and went through. And you have a poem in your book about that as well, which I really like. But that's not it. It's just that we have to acknowledge that this is our lineage and figure out what serves us and how that can push us forward and open us up. So So
I love that you said lineage isn't just the past; it's a line, right? So it's what has happened, what is happening now, and what we're doing to create tomorrow.
It's fabric, right? So that line forms fabric. When you think about knitting or crocheting or sewing, it's a line, but it's not a line, right? There's a connective line, but that doesn't mean it falls in a line. It folds and it bends and it weaves, you know, and part, you know, if you're doing cross stitching or multiple stitching, then it's like spiritual lineage is a line. And then you have thread from biological lineage, and then there's geographical lineage. And I think that's part of what I try to show.
Yeah. And that, you know, I know there's been a lot of talk about ancestors lately, and that, that their presence is very much alive. Right. And how we have to really ask ourselves what ancestors we have chosen to recognize and celebrate. And, you know, why that is. Like, why are these ancestors so present and their legacy and lineage is so celebrated? But when we begin to talk about our personal Black ancestors, it's like, oh no, we can't do that. They're present. We can't. And it's why? But why? And it's a respectability thing. It's like, oh, because my grandmother or great grandmother didn't do this huge big thing that everybody recognizes as an accomplishment, that means that her presence or her energy,
every Black
or
person that ever lived was a because they did so in the midst of
and that's another thing. You know, I was talking my sister sent me this thing about Black Panther and the line in there where he says, bury me in the water with my ancestors who would rather die than be enslaved. And it's like, wow, that's a hot line, but you hear because somebody chose to survive. And even in those little things, like we don't give credence and honor to the people who made a conscious choice to survive so that we could be here right now. And that energy is present in everything that we do, and that we should honor it. I mean, you know, I was speaking with someone and they were like, well, I don't know why you celebrate ancestors. I was like, so on the King holiday, what you doing?
Right. I also have realized I tend to favor my matriarchal and my maternal, my not maternal, my female identified ancestors, right? Yeah. And so on Father's Day, it was so interesting because they was like, "What's up?" All the brothers, all the babas, all was like, "What's up?" And I had a realization that there's been times when people have told me, "Oh, your people are here. I can see them. I can feel them. They're actually talking to me." But when they describe them, they're all the men. I don't think anybody, none of like that I know of, have told me that they've encountered my female ancestors. But they've all told me, like I had a business meeting the other day. Before I could meet with them, she said, "I dreamt about you last night." I said, "What'd you dream?" She said, "I dreamt that you were using a microphone and you were talking, everything was fluid, and we were all there and was collaborating, but there were 2 tall Black men with you. And one's name was C, and his job was to make sure your vision was carried out." I've had another set that were dressed in all white, led by the men. They were always led by the men, and they had to clean this person before the person could be, like basically I clean them and initiate them before they could come around me. And so it's been interesting to think about. I haven't really thought about the role equitably that my babas play in that ancestry, because I tend to lean into my, and that's what I did through my life. I leaned, and I talk about that in the book too, that I leaned so much in my mother's side of the family that it took me till I was 36 to tap into my father's. And Ifa is part of what made me.
Mallory Tay says it's also about knowing that there's no shame in any of it. Right. And if you watch In Our Mother's Garden, I can't believe I can't think of her, Dr. Coco said, y'all talk about not wanting to, honor our ancestors because y'all too busy honoring other ancestors with your George Washington.
Look at Nikki.
Mama Coco, listen. She didn't bite her tongue
you need to be following Nikki's Patreon. Right. That's why you need to be following Nikki's Patreon, because you would have already read it. You would have already been checked on that about a year ago.
It's true. So the thing is, it's like we already do it. It's just when it comes to us, we're shamed, for doing it. And Thea, what you said about the women, I think that subconsciously that's a reaction to whenever we talk about our history, it's through a male patriarchal lens, right? Like even stories of enslavement are usually told. There are very few stories of enslavement. There are very few as it is, but we'll get into that another day. But the narrative is usually through a male lens. But I think subconsciously we respond with inequity when it comes to our ancestors, which we really need to pay attention to and, balance out. So yeah. So
Mallory, I really appreciate you too. Mallory's pictures on Instagram of her and her babies reading this book bring me the most joy. I'll wake up, it'll be a morning, I'm like, fuck the world, fuck everybody, I quit life. And then I'll look at Mallory's reading the book with her baby and them rabbits, and I'm like, oh shit, let me get back on my game. Niggas is reading the book, kids is enjoying the book, rabbits is reading the book. So Mallory, I want you to know, I see you and I thank you. I know them little buddies she got. They're so funny.
Thank you, Mallory. She's one of our ride or die. She's one of our ride or die.
We appreciate you, girl. We do.
Love you so much.
What were you saying?
There is in talking about ancestry and pulling from the maternal side, or even just the male identified figures, it's a tough thing to do. When we were doing our ancestry, DNA pulls, right? This is the first time it really dawned on me, because African Ancestry, the company, says, You really should pull your maternal.
Founded by a Black woman.
Black woman, yes.
And they don't
Black
keep your
run.
DNA.
And they have Black scientists.
Yeah.
And they will destroy your DNA if you request. They won't keep it.
Yes, all that. But they really recommend that you do your maternal lineage because paternal, if you're in America, likely has some,
mama's baby, daddy's maybe.
I didn't want to say it.
I said it. I said it. But you know what I did? I had my dad take it to get my paternal.
But I'm saying you can likely have some colonizer blood, right? Likely, all of us got a little bit. So it gets a little sketch when you're trying to trace back father. But maternal is really pure. We know about how many generations are carried in the womb at a time, and it's just a real clean line straight up through the mother's side.
It's clean. Just clean.
Not to say it's clean. It's clean. It's not to say that we should neglect.
Well, you say because the oldest ancestor. So I did African ancestry of both sides. On my mom's side, we descend from Cameroon, the Kotoko tribe, and there's like 2 other tribes from Cameroon. On my dad's side, Yoruba, so that's where the Ifa comes in. But the oldest, and Nigeria, Yoruba land, Nigeria. The oldest one we've been able to trace, though, the one I have the oldest connection to is Nathan Day, who is the husband of Mother Mary, who I've talked about in the book, but he's older than her, right? And so it's interesting that my oldest traceable one at this time is a man. And so, and also my strongest, so there's this lineage of Ifa priests, or to some degree on my dad's side, my grandfather being the culmination. So him being probably the strongest, one of the strongest, he's always around me. I didn't have a relationship with him until after, because he had passed by the time I was born, but he's a big part of like some of the writing in the book. And so, I they had to remind me on Father's Day, like, you might want to remember, who else is holding you down. So,
yeah, that's that protection part. And once I was Yvonne Briggs, you may know her. She was praying one time and she was saying, and the ancestors that are prowling. And then she she talked about, she was like, no, there are some ancestors that weren't the most upstanding. And they're there too. Yeah. And they are prowling and they are protecting you. And so like acknowledging all of that, and kind of, reframing like how we think of, my great grandfather was a boxer. So I think about that regularly, like that physical presence, that fighting, and sharing with Isla, like, no, you have somebody in the
you have fighters
that beats ass.
Yes.
Professionally.
Yes. And call.
Angela Sand said the fact of the mother's lineage is so true. I was able to go all the way back to enslavement twice with mine. And thank you. Angel is going to be a guest during Black Mama Creative Week.
Yes.
She is the host, creator, and writer of The Mermaid and the Lion.
Yeah.
Let me tell y'all, get your life. Go listen to The Mermaid and the Lion. It is a dramatic narrative podcast. So she'll be our guest on next Monday. But what you were saying, Nikki, about like that's in your blood. When I was at Florida State and I took psychology of the African American, and I was a person who felt like I always struggled with math. And he said to me, the professor said, "What are you talking about? Your ancestors built the pyramids. Why are you struggling with math?" I was like,
right. That's ours.
It's your stuff. It's your stuff.
What? He was like, yeah. Somebody put it in your head that you're struggling with this. You shouldn't be struggling with this. Your ancestors,
you invented it.
Yeah, you invented this. You didn't struggle with this.
This is yours. It's from your. So that's the part too about.
He said, you know what he said to me? He said, "How about somebody not teaching it to you right? You're not struggling. Somebody won't teach it to you right."
And how about the data for understanding it is in your actual cells? Right. So then it's like whenever I'm having problems with something now, I was just saying that today. I was like, you know what? I need to get this money thing right. Let me just come on, ancestors. Which one of y'all has some data for me around money? Right. Because if I have questions about plants, Mother Mary shows up. If I have questions, and so there's like this whole library of information in your body that we don't say. Come forward and share with me. I'm sure there's a billionaire in my ancestry somewhere on some level. I'm gonna need you. Baba billionaire, EI billionaire, whichever one, whoever, to come forward and teach a sister. Remind me what we supposed to do. I done forgot. Remind me.
This is how you know This Is Us has Black writers in the writers' room, because so Randall, you know, if you ain't seen it by now, the season's over. You should have watched.
We don't know what to tell you. We don't believe in the holding out. They
finally showed Randall's birth mother story, and her father was like an investor and a banker, and it was like, yeah, Randall, that makes sense. Look at Randall. Look at Randall. That totally makes sense based on his ancestors. Mallory says yes. Get me together, ancestors. Sheena says, I'm so grateful that I'm here listening to all of you amazing women.
Thank you, Sheena. We're grateful you're here, Sheena.
Okay, so Nikisha, do you want to go? Nikki, can you stick around or do you have to leave?
I'm going to have to cut out because I got hella kids. But
you know what? Not hella.
I was going to say hella. I know. I was going to say, you ain't got no hella.
It does.
It's two. It's a lot.
Nikki. Two can feel like a lot. As somebody who's done two forever.
This was a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you so much, Nikki. I will never hear it the same now that I heard it read by Nikki Black. The Nikki Black.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Nikisha. Thank you,
See you soon, sis.
See you.
Bye. So, Nikisha, do you want to go next or you want me to go next?
I can go. I
struggle. Here. I am crying.
You already know, Thea. When I first saw the material, it wasn't even in book form. I wrote you and was like, I'm unable to finish it.
Hi, Dab.
Hi, Dab.
Dab is enjoying this so much. Thank you, Dab.
Because I cried through the book. Basically, I cried through it, and I'm not able. I'm still taking my time. I've not yet made it to the end, and I'm not rushing to do so. So, but the one of the ones that I did make it that I did make it to that really is resonating with me today is Downhouse 6. And
Downhouse.
Yeah, 6.
That's 2 G's.
I am 2 G's. And I am just really, my grandmother feels very present lately. And so, so much about 2 G's and 1 G too reminds me of her. So, and I got pictures of her this week. My dad was here. So he, we talked about her quite a bit. She's been here. So,
that's beautiful.
Yeah. The end, we get into talking about Jesus a little bit and history with Jesus. So
yes, we do.
This is it. Lillian, daughter of Korah, father's name escapes everyone. She had a sister, Mabel, but she got her own story. Mother of 8, 4 dark brown like the sugar, 4 fair skin like buttermilk. Only the outside world could tell the difference. Do you know she would bike ride with us into her 60s? She'd let out howls of laughter as she raced her great grands. We never saw her sick till the day she got sick. She taught me about Jesus, not the version the world created, the one who lived in the stories she told, remastered through her blackness and womanhood. Because of her, I could always see him in color, even when the world made him out to be black and white. That's why I left the church. Who needs them when I had her? She was church and Jesus enough for me. Still is. That's why we keep altar for her. Bring flowers there every Sunday. She is church. First religion, she offered miracles like breast milk. Helping her fasten her brow was holy work. All 5 hooks. Her laugh is benediction. Loving her made me a believer. And even now, her love brings me back from the dead. Baby, listen.
Let me tell you the part that got me. She let out howls of laughter as she raced. The line before that. Do you know she would bike ride into her 60s? She let out howls of laughter as she raced her great grands. We never saw her sick till the day she got sick. You know, that was conviction for me because we just came back from the beach and my youngest was like, can you go down the slide with me? And I'll be like, right now? She was bike riding with these babies till her 60s. The least I can do is play a game of Uno.
Go down the slide.
And go down the slide. It's the least. It's the least I could do. It's the least I could do.
But she just sounds like love and joy and light and all the good things. She's church.
Yeah, she's so the space that they lived on, this land in Severna Park, that Mother Mary had settled, the women were so strategic about the land, and they passed it down through the women. And in fact, I was asking my grandmother about my Aunt Freddie's land, because she had parceled it up amongst her children, but it was passing down through the women. She kind of knew the girls would keep it. The men are suspect. And so, because my aunt passed like a month before her husband, we lost that land. And so, but my I haven't been in my great grandmother's house. And when I go back there, I plan to go in it because it's on the same land. But she was, I think she's probably a lot like Burial, who is my dad's mother, who also passed before I was born, who I never knew, but I hear about her in the same. I'm the reincarnation of Burial, and I hear about her that same soft strength. Like my mother, when she talks about growing up with these women, and it's funny because sometimes we hear the picture of Black women during this time having to be like so tough and so hard, and generational trauma and spanking and da-da. But my mom's like, they never struck me. They never. Well, she did. One time, she thought they was chasing after her to beat her, but she had accidentally set her dress on fire trying to sneak cookies. My mama did. That's a whole nother book. She was trying to sneak cookies above the oven, the stove, and her dress caught fire. So my grandma's chasing her to put out the fire. My mom's running from my grandmother, thinks she's gonna beat her for the cookies, and the fire's just getting bigger and bigger. It's just a whole shitty mess. So my grandma had to tackle her. But she says, you just always had an abundance of arms and breast and skin to crawl into. And 2G's she learned to make lasagna because it was my favorite food at the time. Or like, she just lived for this family and this life and this. She's so many things. So I'm so glad you read that one, because I think I was the most like her and Burial. And when I'm lost in who to be or how to be, right? She was very strong. Like, she raised 8 kids, and she had two marriages, and kept her land. And again, I never saw her sick until she got sick. And she used to wear them like kulak shorts that went to the calves, and it had the car with the plastic that burned the fuck out of your legs every time you got into it. So she would put blankets in there for us. I mean, there's just things like that I remember about her. But she's so strong, but she's so soft. She never gave up her softness. And I think we do give up our softness to survive in this world, but the world she lived in was probably in a lot of ways more difficult, and still she just would not sacrifice that part of herself to survive. And she's a beautiful reminder that we don't have to.
Mallory's favorite line was, "Yes, church and Jesus enough for me."
Beautiful.
I think that's a product of evolving through a white lens instead of evolving through an ancestral lens. So you feel like you have to be tough and you have to do all of these things to protect you from hurt, pain within your culture, and hurt and pain outside of your culture. But the truth is, like, that's not how that's not our tradition. That's what other folks have to do because of their culture. But that's not giving up our softness. It's not what we have to do, because that's a part of you that keeps you connected.
Yeah.
Keeps you.
And you and I have talked about how the land will keep you soft too.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they kept that land, how the land keeps you soft, because they have their place, their little place on earth.
And staying connected to the land keeps you soft, because earth we think of it as feminine energy, land as feminine energy, right? Yeah. And so that's connecting to your divine femininity. And I'm not talking about men and women. I'm talking about feminine
receiving energy,
receiving energy. And so when we lose that, it makes it hard for us to receive. It makes it hard for things to land on us. Like when someone says, you did a great job, or you're beautiful, or I love you. It makes it harder for those things to land on us because it has to peel through all of the armor that we've been told that we have to put on. And that's evolution. I think that's one of the reasons why I connect so much with womanism when Alice Walker talks about it as opposed to feminism. Because it feels more like evolution and equity through an ancestral lens, where a lot of times feminism can feel like evolution through a white patriarchal lens, even though that's what it claims to be fighting against. So
no, thank you, Nikisha. That was, it's funny because I there's certain ones I go back to a lot that just come up, and then there's certain ones I'm like, God, that's in there too. Like there's a lot of pieces in this book. There's 45 pieces and there's 45 pieces of me in this book. That's really big.
We ready?
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 Yes, I'm ready.
All right. So I chose Inheritance, which is number 16. And
I think that's one of my dad's favorites, actually.
Look at that. Is that right?
I think that's one of Rogelio's favorites.
And I'm kind of shocked that I chose it because it had some Spanish in here. And girl,
we got you, boo.
Ready? Well, somebody better have me because I want to do it justice. Okay. So this one is called Inheritance. The night of my first ebo, you came to me as I slept. I recognized you from the photograph my father gave me, the one where neither of you smiled. I remember not knowing what to do with the image, not knowing where to hang your frame. All I knew of you, I'd collected from the memories of others. You died before I was born. Christianity hadn't prepared me for such relationships until you came to me, eldest granddaughter of your youngest child, the first of the last. I'd only used the word ancestor passively. But you are active, you are alive, you've been shaping my life since birth. Still, your image felt foreign in my home, fake even, like claiming someone else's relationship, someone else's heritage, someone else's birthright. Your words declared a different truth. It's time to go home. It's time to go to Panama. There's an inheritance waiting for you. I never considered my father's story was part of my own. I was born in a land obsessed with binaries. I didn't know I could love them all simultaneously. Barbara and Beryl, Louis and Lillian, Cora and Clara, Pedro Miguel and Servne Park, Saverna Park, Jesus and Oya, expansive love without conflict. The next day I called my father, told him what you said verbatim, and booked my flight. It was my first time out of the United States, the first stamp in my passport. I vividly remember the moment the custom agent asked. Okay, here we go.
Oh, wait. Here, you want me to come in on those parts?
Translation.
Page 42. It's page 42.
There's no pages. Did you number it? I don't do page numbers.
Well, I'm reading off my computer.
Oh, okay. Here we go. ¿Cuál es el propósito de tu viaje?
Thank you, my friend. I glanced down at the fresh ink in my brand new passport. My heart couldn't stop fluttering, as though the wrong answer would prove me to be a fraud, undeserving, the wrong kind of Black.
Familia y mi herencia.
Family and my inheritance. He closed my passport, validated my right to enter my father's birth country.
Bienvenidos a Panama. Oh, that's one of my dad's favorites too.
So I like that one for a number of reasons. Number one, I think that Black people need to get used to expansive territory, expanding our territory, right? That we have inheritance all over the world, you know, not just in the places that we're born, because I feel like that keeps us small and it limits our imagination of what Blackness is and what Blackness can be. And the other part is something that we talked about earlier, how we think of inheritance in white supremacist ways. We think of generational wealth, and we don't think of inheritance as the healing that our families did, the decisions that they made so that we could be where we are. I often tell my mother, I think that one of the best things that she ever did for me was to separate from my father, because it put a strength in me that I couldn't build for myself at that age. But she had already done it. And so it made me afraid to be in the world alone, which made me feel like I can go anywhere. I could do anything that I want to do. I'm okay, you know, by myself. And a lot of people, you know, didn't have that. But and in other ways, like how she healed from that and moved on and has like a beautiful life, you know, right now. Like that is inheritance, because we've seen people with generational wealth who are miserable, whose families are in shambles. And so making that the only measurement of inheritance is us mimicking white supremacy.
The only form of data, right? When there's like a collection of data that my mom said, you know, she was obsessed with the book when she got it. Like she would call me every single day, even my dad's parts. And you know,
we don't have to talk. We don't have to talk about that. We don't talk about it here.
But even those parts. But and she said, these are things I grew up with and I grew up around, but the way you talk about them, they were magic. I just didn't know they were magic. I was, you know, they were so mundane. And I've always said that I think that's true of the Black existence, is that whether we're thinking ancestrally, that when we were in Africa pre-transatlantic slave trade, that being truly attuned with nature is both mundane and magical.
When we were in the United States
yeah, exactly. Wherever we were pre-colonization, the thing is, magic and mundane are really close. People think of them as being so vastly different from each other, but the truth is there's magic constantly in the mundane. And if it's not happening in this very specific outward expression that you have in mind, you miss it. But if it's normal to you that your heart beats, even though we still don't fully understand how this happens.
Absolutely magic.
If it's normal to you that a baby starts crying and your breast milk starts to express, that's magic.
Or conception.
All of it is the mysterious magic of the mundane.
That's what I feel like Denim says. That's what Denim really captures.
Yeah, that is just accepting that the magic's in the mundane. It's not outside in this crazy, very super expressed supernatural way. The supernatural's in the natural. And so I think that's what I'm learning all over again by saying, oh, the data's already been in my body. I don't need any other form of data for this life other than the data that's in my body. But it's about accessing that and trusting that.
I wanted to ask you, so I think that one of the best decisions I ever made was to make my first trip outside of the country a Black country. It was the first place that I went through, because it just really expanded my idea of Blackness, and to see us in that way was just a beautiful, really beautiful experience. And in the poem, the energy in the poem is a little nervous and a little unsure. So how do you feel now? And one of the words that struck me is the last line where you said, validated my right. And so I was wondering how you feel about that particular line now, in terms of validating and the wrong kind of Black.
Yeah, right. Like I think that prior to, you know, this concept of Black, there wasn't like nationalism or tribalism. So I understand that. I understand how things were divided by those terms and by those ways, right? Where it was more your cultural differences that defined you and made you different than your skin color, you know? And so I understand even that there are groups that still operate that way. So they don't understand Blackness the way that we think of Blackness as this all-inclusive diasporic experience. Some of them are still feeling more connected to their nation or their nationalists as opposed to like a global language, right? And so with that, I understand that there are groups that, you know, and especially at this point when I was 36, so it's almost 5 years ago, then I knew it was my right. I didn't feel fully empowered to exercise my right. I knew these were my ancestors. You can't tell me I don't have access to them, to the language, to the culture, to any of it. It's mine. It's in my body. It's in my blood. But I felt like if somebody would have said, you know, the wrong thing, or do you know Spanish, or do you know this, or do you, then I would have been like, am I this enough, right? Which was a new experience for me because I grew up, you know, around Black folks all the time, and so also the fact that I was American, right? So like going to these countries that what identified me may not even be my Blackness so much as my Americanness, and being othered by that was like, ew, I don't want to be associated with that. Like I like to think that I'm different than that, but I'm raised by that. So there's definitely an energy I could be giving off. So there's another piece in here called Rio Bajo, which is about going down river to this space where we would it's like where the Black folks go in Panama City, the you know, the Caribbean folks, the Afro-Antillean folks. And so, oh my God, you talk about just real Black and a good old time. Like, I mean, you just like this, and I feel like there's spaces like that for us everywhere we go with as Black people. Like when we talk about Blackness, we're talking about that kind of universality. But they showed out. And it was just a Tuesday or Wednesday. It was like, what the fuck is the middle of the week? And y'all showing out like this and the all white and the big red hats and all I wanted so much was to know those dances and to feel that freedom and I was so afraid to dance because I was like, won't they be able to tell by how unfree my dancing is, or how, you know, something that will give off the fact that maybe I could look like I belong there, like skin color, hair, whatever. But the moment I start dancing, they're going to be like, or the moment they say something in Spanish and I can't respond, they know I'm not that. And I prefer to be that than to be, you know, seen as the American, right? And so there was a lot of that, you know, it's a very different experience being Black there than here because I don't feel that. I just more so feel like, do I look super fucking American up in this piece? Like, you know, I feel that energy, which is, you know, a little of nothing. That's just me, like, really embracing my roots there as opposed to feel like, but also I will say it's very different, right? Because there's countries you can go to that are Black or African where you don't feel welcome. And in this space, they were like, your dad's Panamanian, you're Panamanian. That's it, right? Let's go get your cedula. Let's go get you registered. Let's go get you citizenship. Let's go. They were like, yes, claim it. They were very helpful and very excited about the idea of me claiming Panamanian heritage. Whereas I know that hasn't always been the case in some other countries. So I definitely think, you know, for those of us who come into that part of our culture later in life, there's a learning curve for sure. I think the not speaking Spanish is a big one because, you know, amongst diaspora, there's so many Spanish speaking Black people, so many, like, you know, in the Caribbean, South America, Mexico. And so for them, that is a unifier. And so to not speak it is a bit of a barrier for me at times with that part of my lineage.
I get that. And that could be a struggle too, though, because it's like,
I don't want to learn another colonizer language. I really don't. I really don't want to learn another colonizing. And so that's also different, right? Because these are people who the Black people were brought there through enslavement, but the cultures that were there were colonized, and that's a different mindset, right? So they have a different relationship with whiteness than we do, and so then that's weird. That's a whole thing too to separate out. And so for them, they don't all. Some do, but not all see that as a bad thing to take on the colonizer's language. But if I had a choice between English and my original language, I'd want to learn my original language.
Right.
But then again, people outside the country, outside of America, usually speak more than one language anyway.
True. And so my last question to you was it your intention, or do you recognize how much and how often you talk about Blackness and being excluded, not or being excluded, fear of being excluded, not just going outside of the country, but within the country as well. Like that is a running theme through your book, is like, well, wherever you go, there you are. And also wherever you go, it feels the same. Like even in like the poem that you have in your book about, I forgot the title, but you're talking about the boys rating the girls.
Still black,
right? And so I was just wondering, I know when you wrote the book, it was about your lineage in Panama, but was that a surprising thing that came up as well? Like,
I hadn't thought about it that way, really, till you just posed the question. And I think that, one, I'm very clear that my work in general centers Blackness, and my belief is that Blackness is so profoundly vast that it'll take lifetimes to fully explore it, if you possibly can. And which is why tapping into my ancestors is important, because I need to pick up where they left off, as opposed to like redoing their work, right? And so if Toni Morrison has already said it, you're not going to have me out here just quoting Toni Morrison when you could be researching her work. I could be helping evolve the work that she did, right? But I think it allows me to explore the textures of Blackness within different cultures and different spaces, right? So with some of the earlier pieces on my Blackness and coming into the Panamanian identity, it's like how I was coming into contact with traditions and values that I should have known, that were mine to know, but I was finding out through these other. I was coming into contact with like it took a Babalao to say that to me, to make me realize, oh, I don't know this about my Blackness, right? And so I think born in this country is to kind of continuously be excavating and defining for yourself what that Blackness is, because of the setting, right? Because of the ecosystem, because of the environment. And like the book for me is a process of finding that through these different forms of exploration of lineage. So the geographical, because geography plays a big part in the book, the biological and the spiritual, and how all of those, it took all those pieces for me to get to this defined state of Blackness. But like, for instance, colorism comes up in Still Black, right? Which is like a whole nother thing, or your body type in Blackness, right? So we were trying to show that there's enough to explore about that, even within our own culture and within our own self. When you add whiteness, when you add being multicultural to that, and even if it's from two Black cultures, there's a whole nother layer, but it's all yours and it's all your right. It's all yours.
So, and that's the reason I felt like it was so important to talk about this week, because I think that we have to be more imaginative when it comes to Blackness and Black culture. Like we have to be we have to be more imaginative and more expansive.
Because what it all leads to, I'll tell you the truth, is that we are each a unique strand of Black.
Right.
We are each a unique,
it's true,
strand in that fabric that makes up what Black is. And if we're not that unique strand, we are detracting.
Well, that means that, like, not defining Blackness as opposed to whiteness.
Absolutely not.
You know what I'm saying?
There's so much to explore in and of itself. It doesn't ever have to leave.
So,
it doesn't ever have to leave its space to be and have enough to do.
And in the book, what I see you doing is questioning that. Like when you talk about the ratings, the 1 to 10 ratings, or when you talk about the wrong kind of Black. And then you have another poem in there that's called Still Black as well. Like what I see you doing is examining and like you said, excavating that and questioning, asking us to ask ourselves, how are we defining Blackness
within our own,
if there is no whiteness? And I think that that's so important because, I'm huge on not mimicking white supremacy.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I really don't even think I mention whiteness very rarely. Like I think I mentioned in terms of segregation.
You really don't mention it. I think what you do is you talk about how the impact, like how we dealt with the impact. How we deal with the impact within our own culture. And I think that in order for us to be imaginative and more expansive when it comes to Blackness and for true liberation, we cannot think of Blackness in opposition to whiteness. We can't think of our culture as a product of racism. You know what I'm saying? Like they're Black, like all Black experiences aren't connected to racism.
Right.
True. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can be having a racial experience, but not a Black experience. Like some people are like, well, Black people are like, well, I was raised around all white people, and so this was, and I'm like, oh, you had a racial experience. That's not necessarily a Black experience. You learned about your race by being in opposition to white people. Whiteness. And I think in your book, what you're asking is like, we're doing all of these things and defining, like, this is the impact of that. And now what we need to do is define Blackness for ourselves. And you do it by going back to your ancestors, by going back to your land. You expand that definition on every level, of your being.
Yeah. And I think the last, it's funny. I think people right now, because the book is such a process, most people are in the beginning of the book. Most people haven't gotten to the second two areas of the book. And I die in the last piece.
Right.
I die in the last. Oh, sorry about that. But
I'm not ready.
It's like This Is Us. You should have read it by now.
It's not how you think.
I can't rush through it. I gotta experience it.
No, we'll talk.
Exactly. But I think, it's because of my initiation, and I think that it's because after all that questioning, I can finally evolve into what I came here to be.
Yeah, I mean the last piece,
and that's like the intention of all of that questioning.
Yeah. I mean the last piece reminds me of Kill Jay-Z. Like that's how he starts. That's how he starts the album. So that's what the last piece reminded me of, and it's like again the expansion. That was the expansion of who he was. Like I'm letting go of this. Of how I've defined myself up until this point.
Yeah, there's part of me that was scared to claim things. There's part of me that,
and the last piece is called Initiation, right?
It's called Oyabumi Nishiku.
Okay. So I think, for me, that's what that is. And it's like then you open up all of the possibilities of how big
celestially, spiritually, earthly, from the earth, the actual ground. I mean, since writing this book, the ancestors I've come in contact with, and I've talked to you about this, Crystal, are not even from this planet.
Right.
They're celestial, or they're not human.
So
right.
For me,
so even that has evolved. Like, so when you think about who you are, you're the culmination of so many things that the universe didn't begin with Earth.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't think about that. That's an expansion of the mind and the imagination that many of us haven't reached yet. So
for me,
it's the journey.
Beginning with this, and why I think it's such an important piece for mothers, is number one, you made the first trip by yourself. And you're a mother with children. And number two,
and it took me so long, I think, because I thought I had to travel with my children for everything. Yeah.
And the second part of is we always think of motherhood as a beginning, not as a beginning. We always think of motherhood as an ending, to this other life, and we're constantly trying to reclaim that other life, right? And so the thing, number three, the thing with Black Mama Creative Week is like, no, you get to now expand.
Imagine.
Like your motherhood should mimic what your body went through in pregnancy and in labor. And you don't go through all of that contracting and expanding again to become small and kill off slowly like little parts of yourself. And so I think you writing this as a mother and other mothers reading it, and specifically other Black mothers reading it, we can see hopefully the shell that we've been put into. And that starting off this week, we can begin to like crack that shell and open up and expand the imagination. So it was important for me to begin the week with the book, because reading it, especially when I read it the second time, it was like, oh wow, okay, this is really a metaphor for everything that our podcast is about. Everything that we want, we hold the space for and hope that Black mothers get from the podcast.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm grateful. And I always say it's a co-authored book. So the ancestors that helped me write it, I could not have written it without them, because there are things in here I didn't know until they channeled it. So I'm also very grateful for that, and want to make sure that I acknowledge that too. Yeah. I'm very happy and honored to have kicked off the week, because my ancestors give me permission to grow my imagination deeply. Our ancestors had to be imaginative to get us here. And we're going to be imaginative to move us forward. And, they didn't see problems and then stop. They saw problems and thought and considered, and then strategized, and then innovated. And
to create.
So I'd like to say this imagining of this book is a book that you wouldn't see mainstream published. And when mainstream wouldn't publish my books, and you all have been there for me during that time, I could have just stopped, but I had to move forward with my own version of what being published would feel and look like. And I gave myself every luxury in doing that. The texture, everything I would want to receive, everything that it would mean to me, for book lovers, for people who think of written text as sacred. If I wanted this to be treated like a portal, the altar box, I gave myself every luxury to be as imaginative as possible with the box, with what came in the box, with the book itself. And I have now comes the job of like spreading this work with the world, but I never want to forget that when the world told me no, I created that.
And I think that that's a question that Black Mama creatives should ask themselves. Like, where have you stopped in your creative journey because someone said no? Because
I actually created something greater because they told me.
Yeah.
You did. You did.
Like, because that happens. It's like, well, I can't get a publisher. I can't get an agent. How am I going to get this script out there? Or I want to be a doula, or I have this idea about liberation, or like, where have you stopped because the world can't see your version of what you want,
Yeah. And that's where those ancestors really kick in. Really kick in, man. I'm telling you, they really kick in, because in your body is the blueprint to what you need to. In fact, this isn't new. It's new to us, but somebody has done this before in my lineage. This data came from somewhere, right? And instead of reinventing the wheel using external forces, you can go inside. That's why I said I'm about to start tapping into which ancestor around here made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Tell me how you did it. Because instead of looking external for the blueprint on what such and such did, or read this book, it's not going to work for me. I need to know what we did and what worked and what didn't work. I need that ancestor to be advising me in that. And so when you go to imagine, you need your ancestors to have your back.
Yeah.
When you go to innovate, change the game, you're going to want them to say, they came up in a dream, 2 dark-skinned men and all white. And so we're going to work with you, whatever you want to do. You want that. Your work will be far less if you can tap in.
And the same thing in your parenting. What are the ways in which that we are stopping our children from doing something because we can't imagine it, because we have fear around it? And in our liberation, what are the things that we say no to? Like when we hear abolish the police, or when we talk about abolitionists, a world with no prisons, because we can't see it or we don't know how to do it. We say no, instead of saying, okay, how, not even how, but okay, just because I can't see it doesn't, then we stop ourselves from even feeling what that kind of world would feel like. And those are all limitations of imagination. All of those are limitations of imagination. So Mallory, Lou says, come on. Sheena, yes, the magic is in the mundane. Absolutely. Mallory says, all of you make me want to write a love letter to my 28, 32-year-old selves, when I literally felt like motherhood was an alternate universe to my actual creative whole self. You were chosen to have that experience to expand you. Every experience is supposed to expand you. Every experience. So, but I've been there. That's why I created Black Mama Creative. Yeah, we get it. We get it for sure. So thank you, Thee. Thank you for writing.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you for being a willing vessel.
Offering. This was like the first time I've actually been able to sit. And as you know, this is what I've been wanting. So I'm very grateful. I needed this today. So thank you.
You're welcome. Now it's time.
I feel uplifted.
Now it's time for me to get my producer on. Y'all ready? You ready for the fancy?
Here we go.
For the fancy? Here we go. These are the upcoming.
It's gonna be a good week
for Black Mama Creative
Week.
I know, right?
Let me tell you,
you've been doing some things. I've seen it.
Nicole had a photo shoot
on these IG streets.
Nicole had a photo shoot, and this is just the black and white picture. Where do you see the color picture? This is from Nicole's new photo.
Honey.
But tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll be having an IG Live. Our next 2 events are IG Lives. Seeing Us, Television, Motherhood, and Healing, a conversation with Michelle Foss, the TV doctor. And we'll be talking about television. I know Thea is going to hop on that IG Live because I know she has a lot to say about the shows. Friday, we'll be having a conversation entitled Building Us, Innovation, Imagination, and Motherhood, a conversation with Tanika Wright. She is an inventor. I'm so excited. She's the first Black Mama creative inventor we've had. Saturday is a free virtual workshop, and I'll be talking about taking your ideas from your mind to material. Actually,
I love that.
Taking that imagination and turning it into something concrete, reclaiming your creative flow. Sunday, we'll be talking with Nicole, sister midwife, birthing us, bringing our ancestors forward. Monday, we'll be talking with Angel, hearing us, elevating our experiences through audio dramas. Listen, if y'all have not listened to The Mermaid and the Lion, go listen to The Mermaid and the Lion. And Tuesday will be a virtual workshop with us, and we'll be talking about embracing mother time, because one of the hardest things that we have to reckon with when we become mothers is time. And so often as mothers, we work against time, and we feel like we don't have enough time. So we'll be talking about how time is actually your ally.
That's going to be great. I'm excited about that.
So that's what we have coming up for the week. Make sure you're following us on Instagram.
Sharing it. Make sure you share with other mothers who don't think they have time. This is all for them.
Yeah.
So please make sure we share.
And that's a way to invest in us. We're offering all free content throughout the week and a paid workshop. So that's a way to invest in us and to make sure that we continue to be Black Mama Built. So thank you so much, Thea.
Thank y'all.
Sending us the book and writing the book and kicking us off today.
We love you. We appreciate you.
I love it. Thank you all so much.
And if you're watching this on replay, make sure that you share. You can even do a little screen record and put a little snippet on your IG and hashtag Black Mama Creative Week. Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll see y'all tomorrow live on IG, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time with Michelle Foss. Bye, everybody.
Bye.